just record it. Okay. Wonderful. So the plan is that we're going to continue with the questions that you had about psychology, and then I'm going to show you a tool with which you can really prepare the questions and the interview properly. And what I ask you first is that you just look at the questions that we have here and that you rate them. You see here we have, for example, this applause sign that when you say this is interesting, you just click on it. And so we can prioritize our questions. So I give you 3 minutes, and just for reading the questions and those what are interesting for you, you just rate them, and then we have the prioritization and start with them. Okay? 3 minutes. Okay. I have 3 here, 2 here. I just take those who are highlighted, and then we start with them. Mhm. Okay, first question. How to be more confident in the interview, although I am really nervous, or is it normal, so just go with it? A little bit of both. There is a lot that you can do, and you will see what this is in the video about the body language in job interviews. There is one section about the first impression, and I think you can use those tools. One is, for example, the power poses that Ms. Weiss already recommended in her breakout session, and yeah, there are even more with which you can do about the for normally a little bit of nervosity in the beginning is super normal because it shows you that the job is important for you. You know, if you're super relaxed, it means it doesn't bother you, and so you need that. It's not about the energy; it's about what you do with the energy. You know, and one thing what that you can do is reframing it. This is psychological. Reframing it means nervosity, and when you are happy for something, that means in German it's Vorfreude. What's the word for Vorfreude in English? It's about um, anticipation, and yeah, so that you are
Excitement.
excitement. Yeah, they are very similar, and so it's about how you frame it. And this is about it's from the book of Amy Cuddy as well. And they took in studies people that were nervous, and they said, okay, no, I'm excited. And so it brings in much more positivity. And so this is what you can do. You can reframe it. I see that there asked 6 people more for this question, so I'm going to give you another hint. And this is it's about your belief set. You know, when we apply somewhere and we have a little bit of this pressure that we need a job, and we feel like somebody begging for something, but I think you have to understand that you bring something to them. You bring really something. You bring your energy, you bring your motivation, you bring the fresh knowledge, you bring your international experience, you bring so many positive things. There is really no reason not to meet them on eye level. You know, on this means you don't beg for something. So don't be nervous. And when you're a little bit nervous, it's okay because it's important for you, and this is absolutely okay. And so normally this nervosity we will see in the video about the body language. One thing that you can do is when you're nervous, your system, this means your body, your whole being, gives you energy to make an impact. And what the problem is, sometimes you have too much of this energy, and then you start to sweat, you start to tickle, or your gastric is getting fuzzy. And so what you can do is you ground yourself. There is, in my book, you have my book in the, I scroll out, and you don't see it yet because it's here in the hidden box. Here is my book. It's my factual book about nonverbal communication in recruiting. It's the only book in I think in the market that is about 400 pages of this stuff. Um, it's in English, so you can download it for free. It's I just on the board, just download it. And there is an exercise about how to ground yourself. When you do this, it's if you have too much energy, it can you can let it off. Yeah? And there is one whole chapter about the first impression and how you can nail this. So I really recommend you, if you want to go deeper in it. We know that about 80% of the decision of the recruiter is made by your nonverbal communication. And this means nervosity and how convincing you are, how you set the brakes, and how, yeah, all this stuff. And this book is all about it. It's for recruiters, but you can read it vice versa in the other direction as well. So yeah, I open it next thing. You already can download it, and I just leave it open. Okay. Yeah. And the last point that I wanted to share about this is that prepare really professional. This means, well, for me, it's always like this. I know when I do everything in for a good preparation, then I can let go the result, because when normally I did the best I can, and then when I don't succeed, I can say, okay, somehow it hasn't meant to be. So I think you get nervous when you had a poor preparation, and then you think, oh, I have to do something very special now to nail it. But then it's too late. So this is about, I think it's about how to plan and organize, and how to do a proper preparation. And this is how I show you here. Yeah, we will show what you see here is the work package for job interviews. This, and this. And this is when I train recruiters. This is really, I will give you all the questions that professional recruiters use, and the system that they use when they prepare for job interviews. And so I think you will have everything that you need. And so you can prepare properly and professional, and then you can let go the result. So much for this question. What should I say or do if I generally don't have an answer for a question? You just can say this. If you don't understand a question, you say, "I beg your pardon. Can you please repeat the question?" And then they do it. And if you really don't know what they want from you, ask another time. You say, "Okay, I'm sorry, but can you tell me again what you want from me? What you mean?" And I had this already in German interviews, and I mean this by my heart. I had this. I was in an interview, and he asked some weird question, and I said, "Okay, sorry, how do you mean this?" And he repeats it, and I said, "Okay, but okay, again, please." And then he said, and then I got it. Then really, I got it. Sometimes our brain needs some time, but then I really nailed the answer, and it was wonderful. And so, if you don't have an answer to a factual question, maybe they want to ask you for some digits, then it's okay anyhow. But you don't do this all the time. If this happens once or twice in an interview, this is absolutely normal. And we know that this builds trust. When you confess that you don't know something, that's okay, because it's better than to try to blend them and to fake something. And so it's no problem if you don't know something once or twice. And sometimes they just, there are special kind of questions, like, for example, how many times a pool would fit in the Atlantic Ocean, or something like this. And then they don't want the right number. They just want to see how you think, and how yeah, how you make concepts. So you say, okay, let's imagine that the Atlantic Ocean has 5 trillion of cubic meters of water, and the pool has blah blah blah, and then you build it somehow together. And so these are a little bit stress questions, but it's more about how you handle them. Okay. Next one. How transparent should we be about our current situation and future expectations? Is it better to be fully honest, or should we adopt a more strategic approach and limit what we share? Both. It's There is a rule if you are on the court or in law, and this means it's from a famous communication psychologist, and she says everything that you say has to be true, but not everything that what's true you have to say. So this is a selective honesty. This means it's super important to know about the expectations of the company. And what I can tell you about their expectation is that normally they want they want to fit the position, and then they want to do the next task. And fit the position means that you are in the position for 3, 5, 7 years. We know that your peak of performance is between 3 and 5 years. And so the goal is to give them the feeling that they can calculate with you for 3 to 5 years. Yeah? And because we know that the first 1 or 2 years they invest in you, and you have to become familiar with the company and with the rules of the company. You have to get into the position. And so you should apply when you apply there, you should be open to work there for 3 to 5 years. And afterwards, it's unrealistic that that you have to bring them more. Yeah. Yes. Is it so? It's okay for everybody? Because I saw there were five. Okay, I see some noddings. Okay. Um, Next one. If I don't know the answer, what would the best way to answer? Just saying, okay, I think we had this already here. That was the same. Next point is 3, but I make this here that we have some order, what we already had. What company really want to hear when they ask why I want to work with them? I honestly just want a job. This is what I told you. Maybe, I don't know. Do you know Maslow, the pyramid of Maslow of needs? And this is interesting because the pyramid of Maslow has about the first version had 5 stages, the last one 8. But what's important is the at the first one with the 5 stages, the bottom 4 are needs of scarcity. This means you don't have enough, and the last section is a need of means this. Does everybody of you know this pyramid? It's about that means the basic need is you need a house or something, somewhere to sleep, something to eat. Then there comes friends, social acceptance, and the very last one is transcendence. This means self-development. And now what's really interesting, or what's important, is that we know that the basic needs are covered if you just have a job. And when I read this question, I just want a job, we know that we see that, okay, you just want to cover the 4 basic needs. And Maslow said in his time that about 1% only went for the top, for the growth needs. And so I think in these days, about 20% will go for the growth needs. But I mentioned this because exactly these 20% are super important and super interesting for the company. Because, imagine you are in a race, and you race, and then there is the target and the goal line. And when you run and run, and then when you reach the line, you stop to run. And when your only goal is to fulfill the 4 basic needs, and then your goal is to have a job, then you will. And the next point is that you try not to lose the job, but you don't go this extra mile. You don't work more, and really bring in more motivation, and the companies know this, and so the clue is they know when they get a candidate whose target and who needs the job, who wants the job, and who wants to work in the company, to fulfill the upper needs, the transcendence and the how to grow personally, and then he's bringing and really a big difference to them. And so your clue is to know yourself as well, that you know what are your targets and your objectives in life and what are your values, and then find companies with which you can achieve them together. Yeah. And when you have this match, they feel it. And then this is super convincing. I know it's work and I know it's not so easy, but this is really what makes the difference. Yeah. And this is then and the positive point is that then you get this job much more easier and you have much more fun in doing it, and you feel you feel the sense and the deeper meaning that it makes for you. It's much more fulfilling. So I just really can recommend you to reflect yourself, to think about where you want to be in 3, 5, 10 years, to think what makes you proud, what yeah, and what you want to achieve in life, and then and when you know this, then watch and search for suitable companies. Yeah? We know that your values will change in life, and normally, actually, in the 20s, for example, when your male status is more important, and but there are when you do the personality tests, then you what I can tell you here, there is a famous quote from Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and he said that in the first 10 years of your career, the most important is that you look for a good for a good boss. It's not about a super big company. You know, they often just want your energy because you're young and bring a lot of energy and new knowledge. And so Jack Ma, and you know he's one of the most famous persons on this planet. He said you have to look in the first 10 years of your career for a good boss, because he will show you how the business works, and he will show you yeah, he will take care of you and show you the rules. And so what I really can recommend you, and I think Tabea White's told it to you as well before, when you're in the job interview and when you should sign and you really feel it in your stomach, that your stomach warns you and say no, don't do this, trust in it, you know, trust in it, and go to another job. It's really about you know, I'm some years on this planet, and my stomach already was right when he warned me. And you know, in finance, we said there is a proverb that says greed eats brain. When you're too greedy for something, it eats your brain, and the same as when you're too greedy, and sometimes the brain eats the stomach, but normally it's right. I describe this as well in my book. So there is about decision making. Yeah. I see some smiling faces, so I think you understand. Wonderful. Next question is, how does situation be in terms of job security due to recent layoffs after being in a top position with high salary income? How do you mean this exactly? How does situation? Mm. From who is this question?
Um, Sorry, yeah.
How do you mean this exactly? Look, we have
Um,
this problem. I don't understand the questions are really. Um,
yeah, because I mean, due to recession and inflation also, like um, there are many layoffs
yeah.
in even the top MNCs, right? So once after getting to a higher management position, so how is it? How will the situation be? Because we have to be paid a lot, so that um, do the employer take risk like to pay us, or do they think like, yeah, can we give this money to other fresh graduates,
So how?
or how will the approach? How will their approach be?
Um,
Companies.
I think it's too complex to give you a simple question, because the job in you know, there are some jobs that when you have mergers and acquisitions, for example, then they just they get laid off. Some jobs that are redundant, and others is when you're in a top position, there are less of the top positions. So sure, if you have a redundance, they may um, you're maybe affected by a layoff. Another thing is, I sometimes have this from older profiles, and they say, they always want young talents, and I cost so much more than the young talents. And I think the clue is what can help you here in this for this question is when you have and this is really important, I think, I see this when we talk about salary, because you write after being in a top position with high salary in a company. Um, when we are in a job interview and come into negotiations, we try always to sell us as high as possible, or not. We not always, but often. And I think this is not the goal. When you negotiate a high salary, you have to deliver. And so it may happen that you get a high salary. And I often hear this from companies that they tell me, hey, this young talents want sometimes really incredibly high salaries. And if they don't bring the value, these are still economic companies or companies that have to compete in the market. And so it can be that they say, okay, this person, we give him so much money, but he just does not bring it. So it's not about getting the highest salary, it's getting a good appropriate salary. You know what I mean? So you have to know the market, know your value, your value. Yeah, but it can be, and when you negotiate too hard and to get too much in 1 year or 2 years later, it can be an disadvantage. This is what I want to say, to tell you.
That's
This,
correct. And once we got laid off at that position,
yeah.
so even to start working in another company, we cannot start from zero, right? We cannot start from even low salary. We have
No, no,
to.
no.
We,
It's you're right, but it's complex. And complex
mhm.
means there are good times and there are bad times. And it means there are different industries. We know that for the exact same positions, if you are in a very high paid industry like pharmaceutical industry or information technology or finance, you get much more money than if you are in for be in sales industry or in supply chain management like this. There are differences between the industries, and this is has they have a big influence. Then we know, dependent where you live, when you have the same position, maybe in it's about the market. For example, when you have in Berlin, you have for one open position, you have 6 or 8 software developers. But and then they can. It's about market rules. When you have when they have when a company has for the same position 50 persons to apply, and they can press them and then can pay lower salaries than if they have problems to find somebody. And so this is what I can recommend you when you remember about it was here. Um, it was about how to enter the hidden labor market. When you see here, this is the job market research. When this video explains how you can use the so-called Fachkräfteradar, and you see in which region of Germany how many applicants are and how many open positions are. And these are basic market rules. The more candidates there are in this region and the less positions, the higher prices they have to pay, and vice versa. And so the really basic rule for you as well is your position is as better than for the more options that you have. For example, I coached a client some weeks before, and in the end, she had 4 offers. So this made a difference of 5,000 euros a year, because um, just knowing that she had different options, she could negotiate harder and really get the first company offered her about 60,000, and in the end, she got 65 and something, because she just had more options. So this is a basic rule in a negotiation. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We have here one question. Do you think there is still biases against foreigners during interview? I mean, psychological, does the way I look affect how the recruiters perceive my competence? To be honest, I think sometimes there is. It should not be more than 10, 15%, but I think sometimes it still exists. But it exists in every direction. When you read my book, there I describe how this projection works. And this means you have your own weaknesses or your deficiencies, yeah? And you project this on other persons. And yeah, but I think it's about 10, 15%. And so be happy that you don't work there. But in the end, it's will not make a big difference. Yeah? Because on the other side, there may maybe for example, there exist also companies that maybe don't like older people like me, or that maybe you have a very, very good qualification and they say, no, it's too much for us. So it's in the end, it's a personal thing. Like I told you, I train recruiters and I see how many biases they do, and they don't do it by purpose, but it just happens. Yeah? Mm. Are qualifications of or personality more important? But for example, what I can recommend you, tell you here about this question is, I coached somebody in Basel, and normally they say that Swiss people are even more um, discriminating. And he was black, he was from Africa, and he just applied for a basic position and as a cleaner job. And finally he got a job. And the funny thing is, there is a I read out the principle of how he succeeded finally. He um he got the job when he applied for the third time at the same company. you know we applied every week different times, and then he came at different companies. And finally he brought me he said, okay, I applied at the company was called Abdullah like this. And I said, huh? Didn't you apply? I thought, hey, really, again and again, they already rejected you twice in the last 6 months. And he said, oh yeah, but I want to work there. And finally they took him. And I think this is super important, not to take it for personal, because they may be super different reasons. And maybe there was a nitty-gritty recruiter, and now he left the company, and the next one is open. So try it again. The rule is that endurance brings success. Yeah? And don't take it for personal if they reject you. It's Yeah, it's just part of the game. They not everybody can be super professional, and so faults happen. And sometimes there was Carl Gustav Jung, a very, very one of the most famous psychologists of the last century, and he said, everything that disturbs you about other people finally can help you to know yourself better. And so if somebody has a problem with if somebody's coming from foreign, yeah, it should tell him something about himself and not about the foreigners. So don't take it for personal. It's not everybody, even not recruiters, are perfect. So are qualifications or personality more important during the job hunt? In the end, it's, for the in the end, it's a personality, because it's more easy to, if somebody has a cool personality, it's more easy to train him the missing qualifications than vice versa. If somebody has super qualifications but a poor personality, you say, you will destroy my team. A friend of mine is line manager at Google in California, and he told me, and this is the real wording he said, he already had that super intelligent holes ruined the whole team. So it's about personality. And there was, for example, the Sutton. Sutton is a very famous. I just looking for his first name, but he's a very famous professor in Stanford, I think. And he said there is a famous article from him in Harvard Business Review, and it's called the a-hole rule. And so he wrote that in his team they have the rule that if some of the professors has a bad feeling about a candidate, that it may be a really not so nice personality, they reject him because he says they have such a nice team and such a good relations at their in their team at the professors that they just don't want someone to come in who's not fitting. So the personality is more important than the qualifications. But the qualifications often open you the door. This means, when you have very good qualifications, and it both is possible. If you should have both, that's wonderful. If my master's thesis isn't the same domain as the job profile, would it be a problem? No, it is easier when it has the same domain, but if there is a different, you just need a good argumentation and a good reason why you want the different job. During interview, do I have to be defensive in salary negotiation? You will automatically be it if you don't have options. So the clue is really to apply and to find different to open up different options at the same and alternatives, and then you will have the choice and the much more power in the negotiation. Would the interviewer quiz me about my technical knowledge? Yes, they have you. They have to ask you because they have to make sure that you. But it's not so super important. We say that in the interview, it's about 10%. It's about your technical and knowledge skills, and 20% about your motivation, and 70% about your personality. Asking the interviewer which characteristics are you looking for in this role at the end of the interview, isn't it too forward? No, it is not. If you do it, if you're friendly and ask them, I saw so many interviewers. I don't know if you remember it from the video, but their studies show that those candidates who get the latest slots for the interviews have the highest chance to get the job. And I already saw this when I coached and trained recruiters. They take the process for finding out what they want. And so when sometimes they just don't, they have an idea, but they don't have the clarity. And so after the first round, after the first candidate, they say, yes, and this and this, and but how about his SAP knowledge? Oh yes, this is super important. Oh, but we didn't write it in the job description. Oh yeah, we have to ask the next one. Yeah. And so they build up. They. It's like iteration. You all know iteration processes for getting a better result. I think everybody from IT knows this. From Agile frameworks, and they do the same with job interviews. So the last candidate can get the best questions, and so show up the most the best for the position. And when you ask them what characteristics are important for them, you help them to get clarity. Yeah? And it helps you maybe to add something that they didn't think about. But it's because it's better if you ask them and they can tell it to you, than if they ask themselves when the interview is finished and they say, okay, we need to know this from the next candidate. Yeah? How to convince the employer during interview in case of transition from technical to the management field? I think you have to find your true motivation. And it's maybe you should a little bit read about the philosophy of Simon Sinek. I think he's one of the top thinkers about leadership at the moment. And so it's about normally it's about how that you want to serve for the people. It's not about that you want to raise your status. This is very important, I think. But follow Simon Sinek at LinkedIn and get familiar with his philosophy, and then I think you will have some good reasons why you want a leadership position. How to crack the job interview quickly after completing masters? Because what I tell you, participate in this program and every application that you do should be personal. And don't just send out too many without customizing each of them to the company and to the position, and then open up more. And it will be like this. Normally, you start to apply, and then you get invitation, and in the first time you get rejections, and then some after some weeks, and it's about endurance. You get the first invitations, and then you learn something about job interviews, and then after some first rounds you get to the second round in one or two occasions. And so it's like a big funnel in sales. You have to make clear that you have enough suitable companies that you can apply at. And what I told you, the difference between the open and the hidden labor market is really that on the open labor market, and you have to compete with many applicants, and then there may be biases, there may be discrimination as well, there may be uh, strong, there may be very strong competitors. It's just if you have a competitor that already has 3 or 5 years experience in the position that you apply for, it's normal that the recruiters always try to find out. They look what you have done in the past, and then they try to interpolate what you are able to do in the future. And so if another client or another candidate already had done the job for 5 years in the same industry, he has a super advantage. So, but when you enter the hidden labor market and where you are all alone, then you can show up. And when you then have convincing documents and yeah, and a good motivation, then they will give you a chance when they have an open position. And normally you can say as a thumb rule that only 10% have open positions. So you need 30 to 40 companies. Yeah. And I already said it twice or three times. Don't go up for the biggest companies. When you apply at Apple and so on, they are flooded from profiles and from applications. Go for the hidden champions. Go for the smaller companies. They don't have to be super small, but 1, 2, 300 people companies, like something like this. Mm, okay, I think we have here one. How do I start my career in solar photovoltaic field, specifically in techno economic? Oh, this is a little bit generic question. Yeah, find out companies in this field. And did you already try to ask ChatGPT for companies? This you can do this. You ask ChatGPT. Hey, I want to apply in the solar photovoltaic industry. And can you tell me some companies in the region of Freiburg and or Karlsruhe? And then it makes a research for you and shows you many companies. Or I don't know if you remember, I showed you how to you find out for which position you want to apply, and then you look in LinkedIn for those positions and for those profiles, and then you look where they work, and then you find out companies as well, and then you can apply there. Yeah. Okay, here's another one. How can I look interested if I have worked in a not related field? How can I look interesting? I think you can take, the method of design thinking. That one thing is that you get an expert for a field, and this means you what I told you in the other course, that you ask professionals in this field how did they come to the job, what they like about the job, what they don't like about the job, and maybe if they give you another hint, and then you read some some hashtags in LinkedIn about it, and maybe you follow some opinion leaders in this field, yeah, and get familiar with this field. And then you more and more you know what this field is about. And when you invest, let's say 1 or 2 hours a day, about 1 or 2 months later, you have a good idea. You read one or two books about it, and then you will know what to say, because then you have to get familiar with the field in which you're going to swim. Okay. We have 5 more questions and we are running out of time. What we're going to do now is first, I want to ask you to write your name in the chat because the time already is over, and thank you, Tien, for the pyramid of Maslow. And yes, write your name in the chat so we can save it that for the certificate. And then I'm going to show you the work package with which you can prepare for job interviews for the right questions. And you can download this and use it as a tool. Okay. Did everybody write in the chat? Okay. And after this, I offer those of you who had another iteration of their CVs a breakout session of 10 minutes, and we'll answer these 5 questions. Yeah. I just stop it for a second. Here are the questions. For the question, tell us about yourself. How much should we talk about professional experience and about our personality? The thumb rule is that your answer should be about 90 seconds to 2 minutes and should tell them in 3 or 4 stations of your career, and maybe about and your interests, why you are a suitable candidate for this position. And normally, if you start in the past and go on through your career, and so finally you say, and this is why I'm here. I already saw as well an other hint of another career coach, and he said that you can use some storytelling and say them that you want to tell them as if it's okay if you tell them a story out of your life that shows you even more who you are. Yeah? And then you should find a good story and be able to build a bridge to the position and the company that you apply for. Yeah? So I think the first one is the must, and the second one is the for the sparkle effect. Yeah? Yeah. And you bring in the personality, you bring in how you present it and how you answer the question. Since an amateur interviewer could be more empathetic or affected by answers, is it safe to say it's an easier interview than a professional interview? Somehow, yes. The question is, if he decides for you, it is super easy. You just have to let him talk. If he doesn't, it's not easy at all because it's super hard to change the decision that he made. So normally it's easy because he already made his decision. But I remember what I told you about this Princeton study. It's super important. When they don't like you, they will show it to you. They will be more closed. They will wait longer than since they answer. They will not mirror your mimic. And so many candidates then feel this and try to lean back as well, try to get more defensive, don't smile as well. And this will give the recruiter the reason to say, oh yeah, look at him now, he was not so sympathetic and blah, blah, blah. And it was a very, very famous Princeton study. I think I showed this in the video about the body language as well. And so the rule is if they are not super friendly and not super open, don't let this infect you. Just really keep the frame, keep your friendliness, and be open. And it's the only thing that you can do. When you start to mirror them and you get unfriendly as well as they might be, this will give them the reason on the rational side to reject you. So. How to practice for the interview without being confused or lost. Yeah, I think prepare take the job description, find the critical incidents, find the according psychological constructs, and then choose for some of the questions out of all this construct, and then find answers. And when you prepared well, and you can translate them into German as well, because I think one really important point is when you apply for a position and they will ask you in German, that makes it even more difficult. Could you prescribe any software tool to prepare for the interviews? Yeah, I think this is a tool that I showed you. What would be the best outfit for the interview and recommendation? Yeah, I talk about this in the next interview, in the next video about the body language. The clue is that the thumb rule is better overdressed than underdressed, better overdressed than underdressed. And the second rule, which can help you to orientate, is that you should dress in a way in which you would represent the company if you're on an official event like a fair or something like this. So yeah, this is the rule, and there are more informations in the video about the body language. Okay, so answered every question.